representative of the distinct things that we bring in our partnership. This is your company, Think Creative.
Al always likes to say that I'm love and he's money. All right, so this presentation is about creatively reinventing ourselves over and over again.
We're going to try to tag team this, but we're pretty casual about it, so you just have to accept us stepping on each other. So the theme is robot, and we want to show a little something about robots.
We just found this on YouTube. It's not ours.
And too often, grunt and sweat methods like this account for as much as 50% of production costs. In some cases, practically an entire production process may be automated. But for the most part, the challenge of today is for management and engineers, men with vision, enthusiasm, and imagination, to tackle the job at hand and improve their operations step by step. Any of these steps is possible, and possible now. Anyone who makes anything can find opportunities to apply the principles of automation to his business.
So you might remember that sort of stuff from when you were growing up. And the irony is, it's going on right now, and it's going on in industries like ours, not just, sort of heavy metal stuff that you see here. Last week there was an article in the New York Times about a Chinese initiative called Replace the Human with Robots. And it is exactly what they are actively doing in factories in China, and it's going to be a big issue over there. So the fact is, from our point of view, robots are coming, and they're coming for all of us, and they certainly came for us. We found that we had to adapt. We hope if you take something away from this talk today, it would be that you can too, because they're chasing you, but you know not.
We're going to start with just a little bit of background on us. As RJ mentioned, we're both from out of the traditional old school media freelance environment. Both of us worked freelance for a long time. Al was a writer and an editor, and I was a photojournalist.
So I'm actually working in this picture. For a long time, I was a correspondent for some newspapers in the South Pacific, and that was my job. It was a pretty good job.
And I'm actually working in this picture too. This was an add-on to an assignment I had in Africa, and I got a call while I was there, and they said, "Would you like to go do another 2 weeks in the Seychelles?" I'm like, sure. So that was my makeshift office at the Olympic Internet in the Seychelles. So why did we lead this life of adventure, danger, romance?
The short answer is the first market collapse around the year 2000, 2001, so people call it the dot-bomb collapse. If you were freelancing, all of a sudden your business dried up. I was doing a very nice living as a freelancer, working for magazines and so on, and suddenly there was no budget. Lots of magazines started to pull their budgets in, and some of them collapsed. I think Jason had a similar experience. And so what we decided to do was to take our skill set as freelancers and run for a safe haven, which in this case was a magazine. Let's go get a staff position. So that's sort of our first adaptation. Okay, I've been chased by market forces, now we're going to run to a safe spot. And we met each other at this publication, which is called Orion, and we did some covers. Like, this is an example of sort of something we do.
Yeah, so this was a great place to work. It was a magazine that we both really admired as freelancers. It was a really great creative opportunity. It's actually one of the few magazines out there that survives well without any advertising, so we had a ton of creative freedom working there. And as Hal said, it was an attempt at finding stability. I had just had my first child, and a day job made a lot more sense than running around the world, not knowing what's coming next month. But as Hal said, the traditional media was drying up, and this idea of the gatekeeper, of the editors, and that whole model was collapsing. We've all heard about what happened with newspapers.
Yeah, so this is a very telling slide of what happened to our industry. That's revenue, basically, in the newspaper world from 1950 to projected to 2020. And so you can see in the odds, like, the money just went away. Like, there was no money. And if anybody in here has worked, and probably a lot of you have in these fields, you're like, It's like, there's no work. So we thought, okay, well, magazines would be good. So we went to magazines.
Yeah, and for reference, I started at Orion in 2000.
So that's newspapers. But then when you look at magazines, it's the same thing. Maybe not quite so dramatic, but you can see that, you know, these are some of the bigger publications, but all these publications have just been squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. So when we looked at this, we saw what economists call creative destruction, right? This is the destruction part, where the publication, the traditional, what Jason calls the gatekeeper media world is collapsing. And it was collapsing, as RJ said, down on our heads.
And this was happening largely for reasons that in some ways we really love, right? Freedom of content. Aggregators like Huffington Post, they paid little or nothing for the content, but gave it great and tremendous distribution. Camera phones, other digital technology making visual image even more ubiquitous. And crowdsource, oops, sorry, it's already there, I want to say something. All right, go ahead.
So, you know, these other two you might be familiar with, Voices.com and 99 Designs. They're really interesting business models because I can say, like, as a small business owner, it's great. Like, I use Voices.com to find, you know, voice talent for videos that we make. But it's appalling how little money people will work for. I'll put out a job and people will come in and underbid my price repeatedly, like down and down and down. And my wife works in voice. And she, you know, her business has dried up as well. You see the same thing with 99 Designs. Great, I can get a really cheap logo for our company. It's like 500 people competing for it. And so what's happened is, on the one hand, like, these are these really cool things that are happening with the internet. But if you're on the provider side, on the creator side, this is what the robot looks like. The robot is this form of the internet, taking away your livelihood.
It's actually gotten so hard to work as a freelancer that when someone does figure it out, it's worthy of an article in places like the
Yeah, they actually featured this guy. He's actually making a living. And he's single and young.
So what does that mean? Does it mean that we're ruined? You know, and a lot of people have lamented that. A lot of people have said, you know, the creative industry, you know, the world of professional creatives is all gone. It's hard to make it work. Hal always wanted to be a baker. It's time to go back and be a baker. I worked in a bike shop before all of this when I was in college. Maybe I should go back to the bike shop. But we actually decided that it looks like opportunity, and that's what we're going to talk about, is how we tried to take this and find the opportunities in this and leverage it for ourselves to maintain, you know, working as creative professionals.
I also discovered I have a gluten sensitivity, so you can't. So we're still at Orion Magazine. It's 2008. We got a regular paycheck, and we looked at like what's going on in the magazine world, and you started to see magazine websites getting a little more interesting. You started to see video showing up on magazine websites. I thought, well, we should try that. Nobody in our office told us we couldn't, so we did. And we ended up making pieces. Each of these are stills from pieces that, short videos that we made that were affiliated with content in the magazine. So there was a feature story, and then we would go out and do a little video, there was an adjunct piece. And we didn't have a marketing strategy or SEO or anything around it. We just thought, let's put it on a website and see what happens. It's very, very organic.
We thought, so how hard can this be, right?
The 5 most dangerous words in business.
So we were in this house and we were teaching ourselves. We had some success with these. A couple of these we've gone to a number of film festivals, and a few of them are even still being requested every time after 4 or 5 years. So it was really fun doing these little shorts. It made us feel good, and we thought, maybe we can do something out of this. Maybe we can make a business. So back up just a little bit. When we decided to make our very first video, we didn't even own a camera. So we went out and bought a camera. We're going to show you some clips from the first one we made.
And a couple of notes here. This is a form of punishment for you. This is really painful to show, but we want to be honest with you guys. And we also are showing this to set up something that comes later, so bear with us here. The original piece is 10 minutes long. We decided to make something that was just as exciting as a real yoga video, which if you've ever seen, they're really slow. So we're just trying to give you a little bit of a gist of what our first effort looked like, and don't hold it against us.
Yeah, so if you need coffee, go to the bathroom.
Howdy, I'm Carol McClintock. This here's my partner, Connie LeBlanc. We're here to show you Cowboy Yoga, a new brand of stretching. Now, you might think that yoga is just for hippies, Democrats, and other sissies that like to wear that stretchy lycra stuff. Or you might be afraid that if you do Cowboy Yoga, you're going to want to watch movies with Jane Fonda in them. But it plain ain't so. Cowboy Yoga can be part of the cowboy way. So Connie, why don't you get your yoga roll there and let's do some Cowboy Yoga. So to start catamount pose, Connie, get down like you're trying to find that oil leak you got under your truck. You can see how Connie is already a lot more flexible. So first, Connie humps his back up like a barn cat facing down a porcupine. Then, Connie reaches for the ground with his belt buckle. That's catamount pose.
I've seen the 10 painful minutes of this stuff. But people reacted kind of the way you guys do. Like, people thought it was funny. They went to some film festivals. And in 2010, Prana picked it up, unbeknownst to us. And like, how many hits in a day?
We had one day where there were 10,000 views on it. All of a sudden, we were just, I mean, we could have like 4 or 5 before this. And then all of a sudden, we see our video stats. We get that little email and it says, you've had 2,000 views today. Like, what? Tracked it down and Prana had posted it. So we were getting this really good positive feedback. We thought, okay, well, cool. Maybe we'll just make a whole bunch of those.
Yeah, make a living. People like it. We'll make a living out of it. This is what the business model looks like.
Yeah, so these are real, actual royalty checks.
That's some online pay-per-view stuff we did.
Clearly our metrics were wrong. And so we had to think, so what is the market? So we're still working at Orion at this point. We're sort of wrapping that up, thinking about where we're going next. We're trying to really think, like, what is the market? How can we take the skills that we have and leverage it into something that might actually be able to.
So we saw 2 things happen. We talked a minute ago about the idea that the traditional media models, especially print media models, were collapsing. Well, it's creative destruction. So that's the destruction part. The creative part is an opportunity. I'm preaching to the choir here. It's an opportunity for people to create their own media. Organizations, businesses, individuals, everybody's got a story to tell. They need to tell it. Hey, we'll help you guys tell that story. That's going to be our business.
And so our first attempts and our first thoughts on this were, we're going to take a very documentary approach. We both come from journalism. We know how to work with the subject and help find their stories and help tell them. And so what we tried to build was around this very authentic storytelling type approach. So what we have, the next one we'll show you is it's actually a short edit that we made of a longer 4-minute piece. We're not going to show you that one to keep timing going here. But, so this is a short edit, but you'll get a sense and we'll tell you a little bit more about how we made it.
The coffee discussion can get so highfalutin when it comes to descriptors and bright fruit and
and sort of complex, density to
A
it.
smooth, chocolatey body.
Wonderful, earthy, spicy tones.
Creamy, maybe effervescence.
From roasted nuts to marshmallows.
There's a little bit of fruit attached to it.
A sort of lingering, creamy finish.
Like dried oranges and like potpourri.
Luxurious, silky, syrupy body.
Briny kind of olive juice taste.
Toasted nut flavors and
Gardenias and orange blossoms.
A red fruit
There's
note.
the kind of peppery. There's like a
Macadamia nut.
there's like a grains of paradise kind of flavor in there,
It's velvety, it's chocolatey, it's smooth.
which is kind of a weird African spice that's used.
it has a very complex array of flavors in the cup.
So this piece we were pretty happy with, and it's fun to show it at an early morning event. But it came out of a ton of work because we went in with no script. And we spent hours with these guys, interviewing, filming, I mean, like classic documentary approach. Where's the story? Find the story. And then editing and transcribing hours and hours of footage, not very cost effective. But he created something that the client really liked and that we felt, that everybody felt was really authentic. And we liked that concept a lot. And it seemed to us like, well, this is totally self-evident, right? Everybody wants authenticity. This is a really good way to get authenticity, like actually turn us loose in your company and let us wander around and talk to people. The problem with that approach is you actually have to trust us because we're going to tell whatever story we find, more or less, even if we're working with you. And that, as it turns out, is not something that people want to do. Not because we're particularly untrustworthy, but because traditionally when you're marketing someone, you want control, you want a script, you want to know what your messaging is. And so this was a lot of fun to do. We didn't find a lot of appetite among other potential clients for this kind of thing.
And so we still really wanted to make this work. And so we still really wanted to make this work, and we thought, okay, well, we're just cutting edge. Maybe that's what's going on. Maybe we're just cutting edge. 5 words you should never say. And so we made things like this. We thought, okay, well, we're going to make these as portfolio pieces. We're going to educate people. We're going to show you what kinds of things we're doing. And we, at the same time, we're also thinking, okay, we're going to have to figure out how to better message the content, how to work a little more closely with the client to address these issues that Hal was talking about. And so the next piece is a piece that we did for a publisher. We're going to show you this one in its entirety. It's a little more than 2 minutes. And this one is our attempt at blending a more marketing conscious, message conscious approach with documentary.
The first time I tried to make my own jam, it was to rescue a flat of strawberries that were gasping their last breath. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I remember seeing my grandmother put berries and sugar and lemon juice in a pot and cooking it, so I did that. Summer used to make me feel extremely frenetic because there were certain flavors I knew I wouldn't have for another 12 months. So I would go to the farmer's market and I would just go crazy. And then we were in sort of this panic of like eating our way through these, stacks and piles of produce. But once I started canning and preserving, it kind of soothed my savage soul a little bit. Everybody has that sensory memory as a kid, something that they ate. And for me, it's peaches. I don't look for it. I think it finds me, You just can't miss it. It smells so good. It looks so sexy and seductive. You can't pass it by. I love to cook for my friends and family, but not everyone can make it to my table. So when I can and preserve food, it's a way for me to feed a larger circle of friends. Oh, it's so cool to teach canning classes and see the range of people that are interested in preserving their own food. I get cool pierced Brooklyn chicks, I get couples, I get grandmothers who want to teach their grandchildren how to can and just kind of want to brush up on the basics again. It's just great to see people, you know, understand that this is not rocket science. It's not beyond anyone. Anyone can preserve their own food. When you look up at those shelves of preserves, you see it all laid out there, there's this little primal part of you that goes like, ah. I just really love coming up from the basement with my quart of tomatoes in the middle of February. You look out the window, snow, ice, horrible winds, and you open up that jar. It smells like summer. It's just terrific.
Okay, so this beach is also built on a sort of documentary interview-driven approach. With the coffee video, we had, I think, 6 or 8 hours worth of interview. We shot for 5-6 days. Just had a ton of content in a very traditional documentary style approach. This one we shot in 2 days. We also produced 3 how-to videos for, like, you know, how to do canning because of YouTube to help drive such workload as well. And about an hour's worth of interview that was very carefully focused on, we need you to say this, we need you to say this, we need you to say this, so that we can fill in content to a script that is essentially already written. But we still try to do it in an authentic way, trying to get her to speak naturally by asking her questions and stitching that together and adjusting as we go. So we were moving in this direction of a more commercial approach, but we still had a lot of the documentary production costs, and that created sort of another challenge for us, which was around clients using video.
So I should note that, so what I hope you're seeing here is we're continuing to try to evolve, because we're still afraid of those robots, right? So we found, because we're so cutting edge apparently, we're way out ahead of our clients, and we found ourselves talking about a lot of this stuff to clients, like why video is so great, and why you should have it, and why you should give us your money so we can make it for you. And people will be like, yeah, I love video. Video is wonderful. There's no way I'm going to give you my money. Because we were confusing nice to have with need to have. And where we were 2008, 2010, even 2012, is it was really hard to show people that you should spend money on this stuff. So lots of people were putting together things like this that showed you like how incredible the return will be. The ROI was really hard to show. This is marketing, you know, and video budgets are a lot bigger than what people are used to spending. This stuff is expensive to do well. So we found ourselves just doing a lot of client education, which we hadn't expected. We just thought it was so self-evident. It wasn't self-evident to a lot of people.
And a lot of what we were producing were these high-dollar, expensive flagship-type projects. So we put all this investment into educating the clients, convincing them, you know, to go with this. They would put all this energy into trying to figure out how to use this new content, and then it was a one-off. And it, you know, you have this very, very short lifespan relationship with your client. Even if they loved what they did, they might be able to do it for a year. So it wasn't very good model. So, what else did we mess up? So some of the other challenges we thought, we're going to try and wrap this up and get to where we are today. Some of the other challenges we faced were technological challenges. When we started out, coming from a photography background and having a good technical knowledge and an early adopter in digital and things like that, we knew that we could work with technology. So we were focused on really leveraging DSLR technology when that was revolutionizing video. We looked at purchasing drones when that was still something that was super cool and not overused in every mountain bike video you've ever seen. And that's what we were really trying to sell. It turns out that it's actually really, really easy now for anyone to learn this technology and anyone to afford it. Apparently there's a guy here who did the TEDx, one of the TEDx videos. anyways, we were talking about this earlier when we got here, and I guess that was his first video. It was awesome. It had over 1 million views on YouTube and stuff. It's more about these other things we need to bring to it than just the technology.
Something else we thought about was, if you want business advice, you get business advice from almost anything. So some of the advice we got was, well, specialize, right? You should be really well known in some industry. So we're up in Boulder, there's a lot of food up there, we'll work in the food industry. Or there's a lot of recreation, there we go. Lots of recreation up there. Let's go do recreation. Who doesn't want to get paid to be outside and be on a mountain bike? So, well, we're up against, a 22-year-old guy who's totally willing to strap a camera on his head and fly off a cliff in exchange for a free pair of skis. And like that's, we can't compete against those guys. Right? And so we thought, well, we can try to specialize in these industries, and then if you're in the food industry, well, you just know you call Take One Creative when you're in Boulder and you need a video made. But it really narrowed our potential client base. And the more we thought about it, it's like we were coming back to where we originally were, which is everybody's got a good story to tell. And everybody wants to tell it to somebody, to some audience they have out there. And we could really help them do that, but we had to get really clear on what was that thing that we do that was going to help them. And so we concluded we didn't want to apply our skills as broadly as we did.
Okay, and so as Hal said, it kind of brought us back to where we were when we started in 2008, and that's that we think we have an ability to distill people's stories. But we have learned already that you can't necessarily do that through our traditional documentary style approach. And so, what we did and what we're doing now is we're trying to just take that awareness of story, take that awareness of authenticity, and find ways of building it into projects that are pretty purely commercial. So this is a very recent project. It's a brand new program that Whole Foods is piloting up in Boulder, or in the Rocky Mountain region. And we'll show you this video here.
It's awesome that you already love Whole Foods Market. Who doesn't, right? If you're passionate about food, why not become a Whole Foodie? We'll make it easy and fun to discover, share, and create content that showcases your passion on social media. As a member of Whole Foodies, you'll use your personal social media accounts to act as an ambassador for Whole Foods Market. From the Whole Foodies platform, we'll serve up fresh, fun activities, everything from sharing links, recipes, and photos, to prompts you can follow to create new posts. As long as you have Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, you're in. Deciding to become a Whole Foodie means you get to share the things that interest you in your own words. Connect your social media accounts. This helps us know your posts are legit and that you are really you. Hi. Complete your profile. We ask for your mailing address so we can send you fun stuff. We promise never to sell your address or to show up at your door. Start sharing. So that we're all following guidelines set by our friends at the Federal Trade Commission, make sure you use #WholeFoodies every time you post about Whole Foods. They want your friends and followers to know you're part of our community, and so do we. Joining Whole Foodies means you're part of our exclusive group. So here are some tips to make sure you get the most out of our community. To be eligible for sweet Whole Foodies swag, you must be an active member of our community. That means you'll need a complete profile with connected social media accounts, and you'll want to participate by sharing or creating content. Oh, and make sure you always use #WholeFoodies. Remember, anytime you're part of something cool, there are gonna be haters. It's better if we Whole Foodies remain delightful and don't engage with the negative comments. Don't feed the trolls. Oh, and if you come across a question you can't answer or you just want to run something by us, feel free to get in touch with the Whole Foodies team. Remember, you're not a company spokesperson, so just post the things you're excited about. You're almost ready to go, so let's refresh. Make sure your profile's all set up. Use #WholeFoodies on all of your posts. Be diplomatic. And get active. Welcome to Whole Foodies. We're thrilled to have you.
Okay, so a really different kind of piece for us. And there's actually a lot of things in that we didn't do. We don't do the animation. So we have a great group that we're now collaborating with up in Boulder who does all that animation. We used an actress, as you noticed. So unlike in the Cowboy Yoga video where we used Hal as Connie, we brought in an actress. But we also, tried to bring some of the skills that we do have from our years of experience into something like that. So a lot of the video looks, a lot of the photography looks very similar. And we also had a lot of control over the script. So even though it is scripted, we did bring a lot of skills to putting that script together and helping them explain that program.
So I think the point to make here, and Jason just said some of it, is as we've been evolving our business model, you go back to those, how hard can it be, those 5 words, is to realize that it's really hard to do a lot of things well, and that this is a collaborative world, and we came out of very sort of independent operators world, and essentially learning how to collaborate allows us to do the thing that we're best at and figure out where our value is. And this is what brings me back to, I'm not sure I want to jump ahead. I'm about to jump ahead. I will come back to that point in a moment. So we're going to show you a different Whole Foods video, shorter. And this is, because you put up with the Cowboy Yoga video, now this is to show you that we have learned how to make fast cuts.
Are you a Whole Foodie? You might belong with the Whole Foodies if you Instagram every meal. Your ideal date night is a cooking class, unusual fruits get you excited, and new recipes are a reason for a party. If you're like me, you're probably a Whole Foodie. We're a community of people on social media who are passionate about food and all things Whole Foods Market. We'd love to have you. Discover, share, and create with our community. You'll boost your social media street cred, and we have some fun surprises in store for you. Join us at WholeFoodies.com.
So where we are now is realizing that if we're going to stay ahead of the robots, we have to do 2 things. We're going to have to. The first is really understanding what our value is, and that's sort of Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. As Jason was saying, we know how to tell story, we know how to get story out of people, and then we know how to bring together teams that can really affect something like this. And to recognize that takes a certain amount of humility. We're not good at a lot of things that we thought we may be working at. And the other is that there's no end point. That the robots are always chasing us, and evolving and continuing to climb up the learning curve is just what our business model is now. It's just never going to get to that point where this is what we do, and this is, you sort of take it or leave it. We feel like we are constantly learning. So, if we've been effective, then maybe you thought that you're in the world that we're in, and I hope that the robots can shoot. We would love your questions. Yeah, so it's a social media campaign. Yeah, they're like so many companies, right? They're engaging social media in whatever way they can. Yeah, it's all sort of part of the same creature, but nothing we can do about it.
I think that is actually a really good point. Is content is changing, and for a while we thought we were going to be content producers straight up. We thought we were going to be making that authentic content. Right? That's where we started in 2008. Embracing the reality of the world and looking for opportunity rather than lamenting that we're competing with every one of the Whole Foods customers who wants to do that. We sort of look at it and say, okay, well, how can we work with that program and amplify that program? So we're still, in a sense, working with authentic content. We're just assisting those people who are producing the authentic content rather than necessarily producing it ourselves. So just trying to look at it in a different way than how we look at it at least.
So the question is, Cowboy Yoga was actually the best thing this woman saw. Should we do some more of that? Let's go way back. Yeah, I'll show you. I'll give you a link to the 10-minute piece. Actually, we did. We thought of one we would do called Video for Cops and Perks. Yoga for Cops and Perks, excuse me. Just bring on a car, the whole thing. That would be very funny these days. No. The real honest answer is no. When we did this, we didn't think about monetizing or any way to actually support ourselves with it. And the thing with Chronic, it was free, it was fun. It was just fun for us. If you have a brilliant idea about how we're going to make money doing this, please come see me.
We also, there's something else that we didn't cover directly in this because it wasn't directly related to that, but initially our business model actually had two pieces. One was to produce short documentary pieces, and one was to produce the commercial application of that same approach. And so we've done several personal projects where we just self-funded it, and they have gone around to film festivals and everything. Some of them have had sort of tangential sponsorship with organizations to $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, not very much. But as Hal said, it's just documentary filmmaking is not a, for most people, it's not a great way to make money.
So one of our first pieces was, which we didn't show you, was about an artist named James Prosek, and a really extraordinary young man who paints fish the way Audubon paint birds. And he's a really cool guy, and he goes all over the world. And we also happen to know Anthony Doerr, who just won the Pulitzer for fiction, who happens to love to fish. And I would like to go with both of them to Slovenia to catch a particularly rare trout and tell the story of these two guys hanging out together. So if you would like to fund that, please. I think the way we tried to get at that was when you look at companies like 99 Designs or Voices.com or Voices123, they're creating a big market, which in some ways is great, but it's driving prices down in an extraordinary fashion because it's all price-based. I mean, the reality is if I need a logo for my company, when I come to you and ask you to design it, you're going to show me 3 or 5 or 7 designs, and I'll probably pick one, and I'll pay you whatever I paid. If you have to go against 500 people, including people from India and Eastern Europe and so on, you're going to get a fraction of that. So that's where we really solved the challenge. And we saw that in text, you saw it on the internet with the free content. Anybody ever heard the phrase content wants to be free? That was a big thing in the early 2000s. I don't want to put a bullet in the head of whoever came up with that idea. Content doesn't want anything, actually. But it was a concept out there that totally cut the rug out from a lot of creatives. So that's the robot that we see. Jason might have a different answer than I do. But we tend to find that we're very complementary. We usually have somewhat differing points of view, but we're really respectful with each other, and it tends to work much better than it would in solo enterprise, I think, certainly speaking for myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's been helpful for us to bounce ideas off of each other and off of the other people that we collaborate with, too. Yeah, it hasn't been, I don't think it's been